The first sound is a match being struck. A single flame flares in the dark, trembling against the draft that slips under the door. Its glow reveals an old man's face, gaunt and precise, eyes fixed not on the fire but on the book he is about to read. Aurelio Calderón places the match to a candle, and suddenly the room appears, walls lined with yellowed paper, crude charts pinned with rusted nails, names written in neat black ink climbing across the stone like vines. He licks his thumb, smooths the first page of the ledger. His lips move as if in prayer. Calderón, he murmurs, and with the name the air inside the farmhouse seems to stiffen. From the loft above, the muffled shuffle of bare feet. 3 girls lean over the railing, their hair uncombed from sleep, their eyes reflecting the candle's rise. Elena, the eldest, clutches the rail as if it were a pew. Magdalena stands behind her, curious and wary. Esperanza lingers last, shoulders hunched, her gaze darting to the open door, as if testing the distance between duty and escape. Aurelio closes the ledger with the care of a priest shutting the tabernacle. He looks up at them. Tonight you will hear why you were born. The words land with the gravity of law. Elena straightens, Magdalena tilts her head as though she has heard this sermon before but never understood its conclusion. Esperanza's toes curl into the wood. The candlelight swings as Aurelio lifts it, walking toward the wall where the charts stretch upward, dozens of names bound by hand-drawn lines. He taps the page with a finger knotted by work. Our blood is fragile. It has been carried across wars, plagues, and famine. Others let theirs spill into the soil. But we, he glances at them, eyes hard but shining, we guard it. We do not give it away. The sisters exchange a look, brief but sharp. Elena lowers her eyes immediately. Magdalena's lips part, but she says nothing. Esperanza shifts her weight, restless, the way a child feels when the room grows colder than it should. Aurelio continues. The world outside this valley rots. They mix. They forget their names. But here, his hand presses flat against the paper, against the branching of kin, we remain whole. And you, my daughters, are the ones who will keep it so. The silence that follows is not empty, it crackles, alive with the hiss of the candle, the ticking of wood in the stove, the faint howl of wind trying the shutters. Finally, Magdalena finds her voice. Father, keep it how? Aurelio smiles, but the smile is small, strained, as though joy were a muscle he hasn't used in years. He sets the candle on the table and lowers himself into the chair. His hands fold. There is a man. A good man. One of us. He will be your husband. The girls blink, each absorbing the words differently. Elena stiffens, trying to picture obedience. Magdalena frowns, her instinct to question bubbling at the edges. Esperanza feels her stomach tighten, as if the floor beneath her has shifted. All of us, she whispers before she can stop herself. Aurelio looks at her, only her. The pause stretches until even the wind outside seems to still. Then he nods. Slowly. Gravely. Yes. All of you. The candle flame bends in the draft, throwing shadows across the charts on the wall, where inked lines connect name to name, cousin to cousin, as if the house itself were conspiring in agreement. From outside, a dog barks in the valley below, sudden and sharp. The girls flinch. Aurelio does not. He rises, takes the ledger once more, and opens it so the pages catch the light. He points to an empty line waiting to be filled. Your duty begins soon. The blood must be written here again. Esperanza watches the ink glisten where his finger touches, and for the first time she understands the book is not history, it is prophecy. And she is trapped inside it. The man arrives before dawn, when the mist still hangs low over the fields like smoke that refuses to lift. Rodrigo steps out of the cart with nothing but a satchel and a wool coat worn to the thread. His eyes are quick, restless, as if measuring the weight of every face before him. He nods to Aurelio, then to the sisters, a nod that holds neither greeting nor apology, just recognition of the role he has been handed. Aurelio ushers him into the house with the solemnity of a host receiving a priest. The air is damp with the smell of boiled potatoes and sheep wool. Rodrigo lays his satchel on the table and pulls out a knife, a book, and a rosary. 3 objects, 3 messages: he can work, he can read, and he can pray. The sisters stand back as Aurelio announces, "This is the man who will keep us whole." Elena lowers her head, folding her hands before her like a bride already rehearsing. Magdalena studies Rodrigo openly, her brow furrowed. Esperanza watches his hands, noticing the tremor when he sets the rosary down, as though faith were heavier than the knife. That evening, the house feels smaller. Rodrigo eats slowly, speaking little, his spoon clinking against the bowl. Aurelio asks him questions about his time away, about the monastery school where he was raised, about the letters they exchanged. Rodrigo answers in clipped sentences, respectful, but his eyes flicker often toward the door, toward the dark beyond the shutters. Esperanza catches the flicker and stores it like a secret, an unspoken wish that the door might open wider, for one of them, for her. After the meal, Aurelio takes Rodrigo to the wall of charts. Candlelight throws the ink into stark relief. Names, unions, children, a forest of lineage that branches inwards instead of out. Aurelio's finger travels the lines like a shepherd tracing a path in snow. "Here you will enter," he says, tapping the chart. "Here you will write again." Rodrigo nods, but his jaw tightens. In that tightening, Esperanza sees not loyalty but weariness, as though he has lived his whole life preparing for this moment and already knows it will not bring peace. The sisters retreat to the loft. There, whispers stir the silence. "He's younger than I thought," Magdalena says. Elena hushes her. "Father knows what he's doing." Esperanza turns away, her voice low. "Does he?" The question lingers, raw and unfinished. They lie awake, listening to the creak of floorboards below as Aurelio and Rodrigo speak long into the night. The words are muffled, but the cadence carries, a negotiation, a doctrine, a binding of futures. Days fall into a new rhythm. Rodrigo repairs the roof, chops wood, carries water. He works with competence, but never whistling, never humming. At meals he sits between Aurelio and Elena, his presence both ordinary and suffocating. Soon, Aurelio arranges the first ceremony. No priest, only candles. He reads aloud from the ledger as though it were scripture, then places Elena's hand into Rodrigo's. The gesture is more transaction than union. Elena does not resist. Her lips form a small smile, dutiful, as if by surrender she might preserve some sense of order. Magdalena's face hardens. Esperanza feels heat rise in her chest as she watches, anger without language, grief without form. She keeps her eyes fixed on the flame, because if she looks too long at Elena she might cry, and tears here feel like treason. That night, when the household has quieted, Esperanza slips outside. The valley is heavy with fog, the mountain silhouettes against a starless sky. She walks only as far as the stone wall that borders the pasture. Her breath clouds in front of her, her fingers brush the rough stone. For the first time she imagines life beyond it, not in detail, not with plan, but as a pulse, a possibility. From the window above, a dim light flickers. She sees Rodrigo standing there, alone, gazing into the fog. Their eyes do not meet, but she senses in his stillness the same thought pressing against him, the door that leads outward, the life unchosen. The next morning, Aurelio catches Esperanza by the arm as she carries water. His grip is firm, his eyes unblinking. "Do not mistake doubt for strength," he says quietly, almost gently. "What we do is bigger than you. Bigger than me. You will understand." Esperanza nods because nodding is survival. But inside, something sharp takes root, an understanding not of his truth, but of the void it covers. She begins to notice everything, Rodrigo's hesitation before he touches Elena, Magdalena's teeth pressed into her lip until they bleed, Aurelio's eyes that shine too brightly when he writes in the ledger. The house is alive with things unsaid. Each silence is louder than words. It happens during the first heavy snow of winter. The valley vanishes beneath a white silence, the road erased, the farmhouse sealed in by drifts that rise past the windows. Inside, the family moves slower, their world contracted to the glow of firelight and the tick of dripping melt. Esperanza wakes one night to the sound of pages turning. Not the crisp turn of a Bible or the hollow slap of the almanac, but the softer shuffle of thin sheets, Aurelio's ledger. She tiptoes down from the loft, barefoot on the cold wood, and sees a sliver of light beneath her father's door. Through the gap she catches sight of him, Aurelio hunched at his desk, quill scratching furiously, candle burning low. He pauses, pulls a folded packet from a drawer, and smooths it flat with both hands. The look on his face is not devotion, it is tenderness. A tenderness she has never received. Curiosity is a stronger hunger than fear. Esperanza waits until the light extinguishes, then listens for his breath deepening into sleep. When at last the silence steadies, she slips into the room. The packet lies beneath the ledger, bound in oilcloth. She unwraps it, heart pounding, and finds letters, dozens of them, all addressed in her father's hand. She holds one to the candle stub she dared relight. The ink is Aurelio's, but the name at the top is Rodrigo. Her throat tightens. She reads. My son, it begins. The blood we gave you was never meant to scatter. What you inherit is more than land. It is a calling. The girls will not understand at first, but you must lead them. You must carry my work onward. When I call you back, you will know your place. The room spins. Rodrigo, this distant cousin, is not cousin at all. He is Aurelio's own child, sent away to grow under other names, then summoned home like a tool returned to its master. Esperanza flips through page after page. The letters trace years of grooming, promises of belonging, instructions for obedience, hints at destiny. The father had carved a path for Rodrigo long before the sisters could choose whether to walk it. Her hands shake so hard the candle sputters. She wants to scream, to tear the pages and throw them into the snow. Instead she folds them back, presses them under the ledger, and retreats to the loft where her sisters sleep. But she cannot sleep. The truth burns her skin from the inside. They have not been given a husband, they have been given a brother. The following morning, her world feels different. The house is the same, the smoke, the wool, the measured silence, but every glance now drips with poison. Elena pours broth into Rodrigo's bowl with quiet compliance, and Esperanza sees the intimacy of betrayal, her sister married to a man who is blood kin. Magdalena hums under her breath, distracted, unaware. Aurelio sits straighter than usual, as if daring Esperanza to speak. Her lips stay sealed. But her eyes betray her. Rodrigo notices. When his gaze meets hers across the table, it lingers too long, a flicker of unease passing through him. Did he know she had read the letters? Does he guess? The air between them grows heavy with unspoken recognition. That night, Esperanza makes a choice. She begins a journal of her own. Not a diary of feelings, feelings can be erased, but a record of facts. Dates. Names. Rituals. The way Aurelio reads the ledger aloud like scripture. The way Rodrigo flinches when Elena reaches for his hand. The way children are spoken of not as sons or daughters, but as continuations. She hides the journal in the loft beam, wrapping it in cloth to keep the ink dry. Each word feels like a weapon smuggled past a guard. The twist does not end there. Weeks later, Elena collapses in the yard, the hem of her dress wet with blood. Panic ripples through the household. Aurelio rushes to her side, muttering prayers, while Rodrigo carries her inside. Magdalena sobs openly, her first real crack of defiance. Esperanza, frozen at the doorway, realizes the consequence of what she has uncovered is not just moral, it is life and death. Elena survives, pale and trembling, but the child she carried does not. Aurelio calls it God's pruning. Esperanza hears only proof of the rot. She returns to her hidden journal that night, and for the first time, she writes not only what she has seen but what she intends. This must end. Someone must know. Even if it kills me. The snow outside thickens, pressing against the shutters like a hand trying to smother the house. Inside, Esperanza's defiance flickers like her candle, fragile, trembling, but burning all the same. By spring, the valley has thawed, but the house feels colder than ever. Snowmelt rushes down the slopes, swelling the river, yet inside the farmhouse the air is heavy with something unspoken. Elena moves slowly after her miscarriage, her face pale, her hands folded often in prayer. Magdalena tends to her with quiet fury, scrubbing floors harder than needed, slamming pots into place. Esperanza watches them both, her journal hidden in the loft, her secret truth burning louder with every day of silence. Rodrigo has grown restless. He paces the yard at night, his boots crunching gravel long after the others sleep. Once, Esperanza catches him by the barn, staring up at the ridge where the path disappears toward town. Their eyes meet. For a second he looks like a man about to run. But he doesn't. He turns back toward the house. Always back toward the house. Aurelio notices everything. He sharpens his words the way some men sharpen knives. One evening, while the family eats in near silence, he fixes Esperanza with his gaze. "You write too much," he says. The spoon freezes halfway to her lips. "I don't," he cuts her off with a raised hand. "I hear your scratching at night. Paper remembers more than it should. Best to let memory rest in the blood." No one speaks. The fire pops. Elena lowers her head, Magdalena clenches her jaw. Rodrigo shifts in his chair but says nothing. Esperanza forces herself to swallow the broth. She keeps her face still, though her heart drums so loud she's sure they can hear it. Later, in the loft, she digs out her journal and reads over her entries by moonlight. She knows it's only a matter of time before Aurelio finds it. The words feel heavier than ever, each one a risk, each one a promise. The children arrive. One after another. Small bodies wrapped in wool, cries echoing through the farmhouse. Some live, some don't. Aurelio calls each death God's refinement. Magdalena calls it something else when she whispers to Esperanza in the dark. "We're killing them," she hisses, tears streaking her face. "You know it. I know it." And still, Esperanza grabs her hand. "Don't say more. He'll hear." But Magdalena does not let go. "Then let him. I won't be silent anymore." Esperanza stares at her sister's trembling hand in hers, and for the first time she feels less alone. That summer, rumors drift into the valley with shepherds passing on the high trail. Soldiers have been seen in the next town. The war in Spain has pulled even the mountains into its orbit. Esperanza listens closely when the shepherds speak, about checkpoints, about patrols, about men with rifles who ask questions. The idea takes root: if outsiders come, perhaps the truth can finally leave this valley. One night, she dares to test Rodrigo. She finds him in the barn sharpening his knife, the glow of the lantern painting hollows on his face. "You don't have to stay," she says quietly. He looks up, startled. "What do you mean?" "You have legs. A voice. You could walk to town. Tell them. End this." Rodrigo's jaw works, torn between fight and shame. "And leave you? Leave the children?" He shakes his head. "I was made for this. Father made me." Esperanza steps closer. Her voice cracks. "No one is made for this." For a moment, she sees the boy inside him, not the tool Aurelio carved. His eyes glisten, but he looks away. If I go, he'll find me. If you speak, he'll bury you. The silence that follows is heavier than shouting. The pressure builds. Esperanza hides her journal deeper in the loft. She begins writing in code, half-sentences, strange symbols, so even if Aurelio finds it, he won't read it easily. Magdalena grows bolder, sometimes questioning her father at supper, earning slaps that echo in the rafters. Elena withdraws further, her silence more frightening than rage. The house becomes a tinderbox, Aurelio with his ledger, Rodrigo with his divided loyalty, the sisters with their breaking wills, the children with their fragile lives. Esperanza knows the storm is coming. She feels it in the air, in the way Aurelio lingers by her chair, in the way Rodrigo avoids her eyes, in the whispers of soldiers moving closer to the valley. She writes one final line before blowing out the candle: if they come, I will show them everything. If they don't, I will burn it myself. The ink smudges where her hand trembles. Outside, thunder rolls over the mountains, as if the sky itself were warning what must break next. The night feels wrong before it begins. The air is too still, the fire too dim, the silence too sharp. Esperanza feels it in her bones, something is about to break. They are gathered at the table. Aurelio presides as always, the ledger open before him, its ink lines blacker than the shadows. Elena, fragile as porcelain, barely touches her food. Magdalena sits rigid, jaw clenched. Rodrigo's eyes stay lowered, as if hiding from both God and man. Aurelio clears his throat, voice calm and final. The next child will be stronger. We begin again at once. Something in Elena snaps. She drops her spoon, the sound small but explosive in the stillness. No more, she whispers. Aurelio turns, brows furrowed. What did you say? Her whisper sharpens. No more. The silence detonates. Magdalena pushes her chair back, hands slamming the table. She's right. Enough of this. Aurelio's face tightens like a fist. You speak against your own blood? Against God's will? It's not God's will, Magdalena spits. Her voice shakes, but it holds. It's yours. Only yours. And you're killing us. The words echo in the rafters, raw and alive. Elena covers her face, sobbing quietly. Rodrigo grips the edge of the table, caught between loyalty and shame. Esperanza's heart pounds so hard she feels it in her throat. Aurelio rises. His chair topples behind him. He slams his palm on the ledger. This book is our life. Without it, you are dust. Esperanza stands too, trembling but unyielding. Then let us be dust. Aurelio's eyes find hers, full of fury and disbelief. You. His voice lowers, venomous. It was you. The scratching at night. The poison in the air. You think words make you stronger than me? He strides forward, seizes her wrist, and drags her toward the ledger. The candlelight wavers, pages flaring yellow. Write your oath. Swear it in ink. She struggles, teeth clenched. I will not. Magdalena throws herself between them, shoving at his chest. Leave her. Aurelio strikes her. The crack of palm against skin fills the room. Magdalena stumbles but does not fall. She lifts her chin, blood on her lip, eyes blazing with something Aurelio cannot extinguish. Esperanza rips free. Her voice rises, stronger than she knew it could be. Your book is rot. Your blood is ruin. Look at the graves you've dug, Father, how many children buried because of you. Aurelio's face twists, not with shame but with rage that his power no longer commands silence. He lunges for her again. And then, boots outside. Shouts. The pounding of fists against the farmhouse door. Everyone freezes. Rodrigo's head jerks toward the sound. Soldiers. The door bursts open. Torchlight floods the room, blinding after so many years of dim. The Guardia Civil spill inside, rifles raised, their voices cutting like knives. Hands up. Away from the table. The Calderón stand stunned, shadows of themselves in the blaze of intrusion. The soldiers tear charts from the walls, papers scattering like leaves. One officer scans the grotesque branches of lineage, his face tightening. Aurelio tries to speak, his voice booming over the chaos. You fools! This is sacred. You desecrate God's work. The officer steps forward, eyes hard. This is no sacrament. This is a crime. He rips the ledger from Aurelio's grasp, pages fluttering. Esperanza watches, chest heaving, and for the first time she doesn't feel like prey. She reaches toward the loft beam, where her journal lies hidden. A soldier spots it, pulls it free, and flips through the coded pages. He glances at her. Yours? Her voice breaks but she nods. Mine. The officer studies her, then tucks the journal under his arm. Then it ends tonight. Aurelio roars, thrashing against the soldiers restraining him. Lies. All of you. You betray your blood. His eyes burn into Esperanza's, hatred and desperation fused into one. You are no daughter of mine. For the first time, Esperanza does not look away. No. I'm not. Rodrigo steps forward, trembling, his face pale as bone. He looks at Aurelio, then at Esperanza, then back again. His voice cracks as he speaks, louder than he has ever dared. She tells the truth. The words drop into the silence like stones into water. Aurelio falters, just for a second, his authority shattered not by soldiers, but by the son he thought was his disciple. The soldiers drag Aurelio out into the yard. His curses echo against the mountains, fading as the night swallows him. Inside, Esperanza clutches the journal, Magdalena's bloodied hand gripping hers, Elena weeping softly beside them. Rodrigo slumps against the wall, his confession still hanging in the smoke-thick air. The farmhouse is in ruins, charts torn down, ledger gone, order broken. And yet, for the first time, Esperanza feels the weight in her chest lift. Not freedom. Not yet. But the door has been forced open, and air rushes in. The flame of the last candle flickers against the blank wall, where Aurelio's charts once spread like roots. The space is bare now, raw and unfinished. Esperanza stares at it, heart hammering, knowing the blankness is more terrifying, and more promising, than anything ink could record. The farmhouse did not burn that night. It stood for months, stripped of its charts, emptied of Aurelio's voice, echoing with nothing but the cries of infants and the shuffling of boots as the soldiers cleared the rooms. But when the children were taken away, when the ledgers were sealed in crates, when the doors were nailed shut, only then did the valley begin to forget. Esperanza never saw her father again. Rumor said he died in a prison yard, still preaching bloodlines to anyone who would listen. She did not chase the truth of it. Some endings are better left uncertain. Her sisters' paths broke in different ways. Elena moved through life like a shadow, quiet and trembling, her faith hollowed but not gone. Magdalena carried her scar proudly, a red mark on her cheek that never faded, a reminder that she had spoken when silence had seemed safer. And Rodrigo, he left with the soldiers but was never truly free. Esperanza saw it in his face the last time they locked eyes, the knowledge that he had been both victim and accomplice, both brother and husband, both son and tool. There are knots too tangled to ever untie. Esperanza herself was taken to the city, placed under watch, her journal translated into evidence. Scholars would later call it testimony, physicians would call it data, but to her it was just a record of survival, scratches of ink that had kept her from dissolving into silence. Years passed. The war consumed Spain, the valley slipped further into its own erasure. Hikers who stumbled upon the old Calderón farm found only ruins, a wall collapsed here, a beam blackened by rot there, nettles growing where children once played. The stones gave no answers. Esperanza grew old in Madrid, her hands trembling as they once had over stolen letters. In the end she lived not as heroine, not as villain, but as witness. She carried both shame and defiance in equal measure. And when she died, she left behind a single note in the margin of her journal: "We are not what they wrote in us. We are what we choose to leave unwritten." If the story had a final shot, it would not be of Aurelio's face or of the soldiers' rifles. It would be of the wall where the genealogical charts once hung, bare now, empty stone bathed in light from a single open window. A silence not of secrecy, but of release. The camera would linger there, on the blankness, on the possibility of it. Long enough for the audience to breathe. Long enough for the past to echo once, then fade. E1